Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Court. Less than 10 years after the star-studded but ultimately fruitless assembly of Shaq, Kobe, Malone and Peyton in 2003-04, the Lakers tried the experiment again. In the summer of 2012, they put together what the media and many fans called the most talented starting five assembled in a long while: Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, Dwight Howard, and Steve Nash, with middle world peace sliding into the rotation. On paper, the pieces seemed complementary. A relentless scorer who could take over late, a skilled, versatile big man who could pass and stretch the floor, a dominant interior defender, and a Hall of Fame floor general who made everyone around him better. The dream was simple and intoxicating: championship or bust, but the reality that followed was messy, painful, and quick in its collapse. What unfolded across the season is a study in how roster construction, coaching fit, injuries, locker room dynamics, and front office choices can combine to topple the most glittering of plans. The story really begins with context that matters. The Lakers arrived at 2012 hoping to fix 2 years of playoff disappointments. They had underperformed a roster with title expectations in 2010-11 and 2011-12, knocked out by the Mavericks and Thunder respectively. Management decided to act aggressively. Dwight Howard, then widely considered the game's best traditional center and a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, was traded in. Steve Nash, 2-time MVP and the heartbeat of the Suns' decade of high-octane offense, was signed in a separate move. Pau Gasol, already a 2-time Finals companion to Kobe, remained. Kobe was still Kobe, fierce, obsessive, and capable of carrying a team through stretches when everything else failed. With Matanda's supplemented bench, the roster looked like a short path back to banner number 17. But timing, unfit, or everything in basketball. The Lakers' preseason was ominous: 8 straight losses. Preseason records can be shrugged off, but the way the team moved on the floors, how possessions were run, and how rotations felt in earth slivers of doubt. When the regular season opened under my brow, frustration grew quickly. Kobe's famous stare at the bench during a poor stretch became a viral image and a symbol of superstar impatient with a structure that wasn't producing. Brown was gone before long. Interim coaching stints led to the hiring of Mike D'Antoni, the architect of a run-and-gone offense that seemed on paper to be the perfect match for Nash. The problem was the roster. D'Antoni's philosophy required pace, spacing, and relentless movement conditions that a group of aging stars in the center who liked to dominate the paint did not naturally satisfy. Kobe responded the only way he knew how: by playing at an extreme level. In December 2012, he crossed the 30,000-point mark, became the youngest player at the time to hit the milestone, and piled up heavy scoring nights while logging massive minutes. He carried the offense, he adapted his game to whatever the team needed in the moment, and he tried to make the various puzzle pieces fit. His December was spectacular, and at times it felt like a movie scene: one man sacrificing his body and energy for the only blueprint that could keep the Lakers afloat. But basketball is less about heroics and more about systems and support. Heavy minute burdens on a third eye for -year all-star exact costs, and those costs appeared in both a weariness and vulnerability that became painfully evident when his body finally gave way. April 12, 2013 is the date that season is most often remembered for. In a late regular season game against Warriors team that was only just beginning to unveil the future of the league, Kobe drove, planted, and collapsed. The sight of him grimacing, clutching his left leg, then limping to the free throw line to sink both shots before exiting the game, is seared into the memories of fans worldwide. His diagnosis, complete Achilles tendon rupture, did not just end his season, it changed the trajectory of the team's title hopes, the arc of his career. He had been carrying an enormous load, he had played with little rest across the campaign, and in a single moment the physical consequence of that workload arrived. Kobe's injury exposed everything else. Without him, the Lakers were a different team. They limped into the playoffs and faced the Spurs, a quietly efficient and selfless system that punished teams without cohesion. The Spurs swept the Lakers. Moments like Dwight Howard's ejection in game for technical fouls in quick succession felt like a microcosm of the emotional and strategic breakdown that defined that season.
Key role players were either hurt or ineffective. Steve Nash at 38 missed significant time, and when he played he looked limited. Pau Gasol and Dwight Howard won of the same complementary pairing that champions need. Defensive rotation sputtered, and the bench never found consistent offensive identity. Deeper than injuries and tactical mismatches were chemistry and organizational problems. Pope's competitiveness is legendary. He wanted to win more than almost anything. Dwight Howard had a different personality and different priorities. Reports of friction between stars circulated throughout the year, partly the normal heat of a rich competition, partly symptoms of incompatible styles. While a franchise like the Lakers historically relied on strong leadership and unifying presence for the West and then their figures for decades, his death in early 2013 removed some stabilizing influence. At the same time, the Buff family's internal power struggled to achieve loss on different sides of decisions, created turbulence that trickled down into relationships, from hires and lessons. The search for quick success pushed management to prioritize star aggregation over construction and accounting for error, durability, and coaching philosophy. Tactical incompatibilities deserve more attention because they show how a superstar will fail. The Anthony system relies on quick minus growth, quick reads off minus ball spacing, and an ability for bigs to do space or roll aggressive. Steve Nash, at his peak deliberateness as a magician. At 38, with knees failing, Nash could no longer orchestrate the same way. Dwight Howard, excellent at rim protection and pick minus and minus roll finishing, had limitations when the offense required him to move laterally for extended stretches or to play outside the paint. Pau Gasol, the soft-touch big man who had thrived in half-minus court sets and shared minutes brilliantly with Kobe in the past, could not be the fix that turned an aging core into a high-minus tempo machine. The result: touch. Possessions that should have been simple became chaotic. Dwight's touches dwindled. Nash was reduced at times to spot shooting. Kobe had to adapt into roles that alternately demanded isolation, scoring, and playmaking. That inconsistency made the team predictable and exploitable. From a roster-minus building perspective, the Lakers also lacked the younger, athletic pieces that could cover defensive lapses, run the floor, and provide energy in the fourth quarter. Veterans like Anton Jamison and Jody Meeks provided shooting on occasional spots, but they were not consistent game changers. Role players Darius Morris, D.J. names that faded from many fans' memories were asked to play minutes in critical moments and simply could not carry the load. At the end of the day, the Lakers became a team where the sum was less than its parts because the parts could not play the same level. The fallout was swift and consequential. Dwight Howard left in free agency to join the Rockets the following summer, unwilling to endure another season of internal heat. Steve Nash played one more season and retired. Pau Gasol eventually left as well, signing elsewhere. Kobe limped through the next season, noble in his efforts but no longer the same physical force he had been a decade earlier. The new EFTA lasted for one season, a single chapter in franchise law that reads like a cautionary tale rather than a triumph. The 2012-13 Lakers teaching important lessons. Star power alone is not a blueprint for championships. Fit age, health, coaching philosophy, front office stability, and the often intangible chemistry between players are equally, if not more, determinative. The desire to win quickly can lead organizations to gamble on immediate returns, but those bets can blow up spectacularly when underlying fundamentals are ignored. The Lakers' experiment was not merely a failure because they lost games, it was a failure because it revealed how fragile the architecture of elite basketball can be when built too hastily around names instead of system. Even so, the season is not without its haunting beauty. The image that resonates beyond the losses and the politics is still Kobe on that night in April. His 2 free throws, his grimace, his willingness to give everything he had for a team that could not reciprocate fully. That scene captures the paradox of that era. Heroism and vulnerability intertwined. For Lakers fans, historians, and students of the game, 2012-13 remains a vivid example of how basketball's human elements, the bodies, the minds, the relationships, the decisions shape outcomes as much as excess and duress.